The discovery. The quantum sensors aboard the UES Horizon chirped an alert that Dr. Sarah Chen had never heard before. She looked up from her research terminal, dark eyes narrowing at the unusual reading. The research vessel had been mapping gravitational anomalies in the Ophiuchus sector for the past 3 months. But this was different. "Captain Rodriguez," she called over the ship's comm. "You might want to see this." The readings didn't make sense. The quantum fluctuations suggested a structure existing in multiple dimensional states simultaneously, technology far beyond current human capabilities. Sarah's hands flew over the holographic interface, running diagnostic after diagnostic to confirm what she was seeing. Captain Elena Rodriguez arrived on the observation deck moments later, her weathered face creased with concern. "Talk to me, Dr. Chen. Look at these quantum signatures." Sarah pointed to the swirling data patterns. "Whatever this is, it's not natural. The energy patterns suggest deliberate engineering at a quantum level." The captain leaned closer, her military training evident in her rigid posture. "Alien? Has to be. Nothing humanity has built could achieve this level of quantum manipulation." Sarah highlighted a particular pattern. "It's like someone built a lighthouse that exists in multiple dimensions at once." The Horizon's engines hummed as they adjusted course to investigate. As they drew closer, the ship's external cameras revealed their discovery. A massive crystalline structure floating in space, its surface rippling with impossible geometries that seemed to fold in on themselves. "All hands, this is the captain," Rodriguez announced shipwide. "We've encountered an artificial structure of unknown origin. Level 2 first contact protocols are now in effect." The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. Research teams worked in shifts, scanning every aspect of the structure they could detect. Security teams maintained constant vigilance, though the object appeared dormant. Sarah barely noticed the time passing as she pored over the data. It was during the third shift that everything changed. The structure suddenly pulsed with internal light, and a beam of energy shot out, narrowly missing the horizon. Before anyone could react, space itself seemed to tear open, and through that tear came ships, dozens of them, their hulls black as space itself, bristling with weapons. "Battle stations." Rodriguez's voice cut through the chaos. "All civilian personnel to secure locations." Sarah stayed at her station, frantically recording data as the alien fleet emerged. The ships moved with impossible precision, forming a perfect geometric pattern around the structure. Then came the transmission, not in radio waves or any known form of communication, but directly into the minds of everyone aboard the Horizon. "Help us. They are coming." The Devourers approach. Images flooded Sarah's mind. Worlds being consumed, entire civilizations reduced to ash. A relentless force moving through the galaxy like a plague. The transmission felt ancient, a warning left behind by a civilization long since vanished. The black ships turned their attention to the horizon. Weapons charged, but they didn't fire. Instead, another message came. "You have witnessed. You must prepare. Your kind has been chosen." "Captain," Sarah's voice was barely a whisper, "I don't think these ships are our enemy. I think they're automated defenders, left behind to find someone who could carry on the fight." Rodriguez gripped the command rail, her knuckles white. The fight against what? The answer came in the form of new sensor contacts, massive vessels emerging from hyperspace, their very presence seeming to drain the light from nearby stars. The black defender ships immediately moved to engage, their weapons flaring to life. "Get us out of here," Rodriguez ordered. "Maximum speed back to Earth." And Dr. Chen. "Yes, Captain. Start writing your report. The Admiralty needs to know. Humanity just got drafted into an interstellar war." As the Horizon fled the battle, Sarah watched the defender ships sacrifice themselves to cover their escape. Their last transmission burned itself into her memory. "You have been chosen because you are young, because you still dream, because you have not yet learned that some things are impossible." The quantum structure collapsed behind them, its purpose fulfilled. Humanity had received its warning. Now they had to decide what to do with it. The response. The United Earth Defense Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from every spacefaring nation packed the circular room, their murmurs echoing off the curved walls as Dr. Sarah Chen's holographic presentation played above the central podium. Admiral Wei Zhang stood at the window, watching Earth's orbital defense platforms glitter against the night sky. The Horizon's data had been authenticated by every major scientific institution on the planet. There was no denying what was coming. The quantum signatures we detected suggest they'll arrive within 6 months. Sarah's voice carried across the chamber. The Devourer's technology appears to be based on energy absorption. They literally feed on the electromagnetic output of entire civilizations. And these defenders chose us. The Russian representative's skepticism was clear. Why not a more advanced species? Admiral Zhang turned from the window. Because we're different. Every spacefaring race we've encountered so far has followed a similar technological path, gradual, methodical, building on what came before. But humanity. He gestured to the holographic display. We went from first flight to landing on our moon in 66 years. We look at the impossible and see a challenge, not a barrier. The chamber erupted in debate. Sarah watched as political concerns clashed with military necessity. The defender ship's warning had been clear. The Devourers were coming, and Earth was now their target. In a secure facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Marcus Wong led Sarah through rows of experimental spacecraft. Project Prometheus, he explained, his excitement barely contained. We've been reverse engineering quantum technology for decades, but could never generate enough power to make it work. Your data from the defender ships filled in the missing pieces. The ships were unlike anything Sarah had seen before. Sleek vessels with crystalline growths along their hulls, suggesting a fusion of human and alien engineering. How many can we build in 6 months? Enough, Marcus smiled. The quantum replication protocols we developed mean each ship can help build the next. Exponential production. We'll have a fleet, but numbers alone wouldn't be enough. In orbital training facilities, the best pilots Earth had to offer learned to operate vessels that defied conventional physics. Captain Elena Rodriguez, now promoted to fleet commander, watched her crews adapt to ships that could exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. They're learning, she reported to Admiral Zhang. The quantum interfaces are becoming more intuitive. Our pilots are starting to think in 4 dimensions. The preparations weren't limited to the military. Sarah led a team of scientists working to understand the Devourer's energy absorption technology. If they could disrupt it, they might have a chance. They're not invincible, she explained during another council session. The defender ship's records show they were defeated before, driven back by the same civilization that built the quantum structure. We just have to figure out how. 4 months into their preparation, the first signs appeared. Distant solar monitoring stations went dark. Electromagnetic anomalies rippled across space. The Devourers were approaching. In his private office, Admiral Zhang reviewed the latest readiness reports. The quantum fleet was nearly complete. 30 ships that represented the pinnacle of human engineering combined with alien insight. The orbital defense grid had been upgraded with technology derived from the defender ship's data. Every settlement from Mars to Europa was fortified. Admiral, Sarah entered after a brief knock. We've made a breakthrough. The quantum structure wasn't just a warning beacon, it was a key. The defenders left us more than just technology. They left us a strategy. She laid out her findings, and Zhang felt a smile spread across his face. The defenders had chosen humanity for a reason. Where other species might have tried to match the Devourer's power, humans would find a way to turn that power against them. Send this to Fleet Commander Rodriguez immediately, he ordered. And Dr. Chen, thank you for everything. Sarah nodded and left. Outside, the orbital shipyards glowed with activity as the last of the quantum fleet took shape. Humanity had spent its entire history looking up at the stars, dreaming of what lay beyond. Now those dreams would be tested against a nightmare. But that was what humanity did best: face the impossible and find a way to make it possible. The Devourers were coming, but they would learn what so many others had learned before. Underestimating humanity was a costly mistake. The battle begins. They came like a shadow across the stars. Fleet Commander Elena Rodriguez watched from the bridge of the UES Prometheus as the Devourer fleet emerged from hyperspace. Massive structures that seemed to absorb light itself, their hulls rippling with dark energy. "All ships, battle formations," she ordered, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. The quantum fleet moved in perfect synchronization, their crystalline hulls shimming as they shifted partially out of normal space-time. 30 ships against an armada. But these ships represented everything humanity could achieve when pushed to its limits. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at her station aboard the Prometheus, monitoring the quantum field metrics. "The Devourers are scanning us," she reported. "Energy signatures suggest they're confused by our quantum state signatures." "Good." Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. "Let's give them something else to think about. Execute Operation Firebreak." The quantum fleet split into three-dimensional formations, each ship occupying multiple quantum states simultaneously. To the Devourer sensors, it would appear as if they were facing hundreds of vessels instead of 30. The enemy responded immediately. Massive energy beams lashed out, designed to drain power from their targets. But the quantum ships weren't there, not entirely. The beams passed through phantom images while the real vessels struck from unexpected vectors. "First blood to us," Rodriguez announced as a Devourer vessel reeled from multiple quantum torpedo hits. "But they're adapting." "Sarah, how's the resonance?" Sarah's fingers flew across her holographic controls. "Quantum signatures are stable. Their absorption technology can't get a lock on us when we're phase shifted. But," she paused, frowning at new data, "they're changing tactics." The Devourer fleet began to move in impossible patterns, their massive ships breaking apart and reforming like liquid metal. What had seemed like individual vessels became a swarm of smaller craft, each one targeting a quantum ship. "They're trying to overwhelm our phase shifting," Sarah realized. "Too many targets to track across quantum states." Rodriguez watched as her fleet was forced to react, quantum ships dancing through space in four-dimensional maneuvers that would have been impossible 6 months ago. "Implement the Horizon Protocol," she ordered. "Let's see if your theory works, Doctor." Sarah nodded and began the sequence they'd prepared. The quantum fleet's crystalline structures began to pulse with energy, not trying to evade the Devourer's absorption beams, but instead resonating with them. Energy absorption at critical levels. An officer reported, alarm in his voice. "Hold steady," Rodriguez commanded. "Trust the science." The Devourers pressed their advantage, pouring more energy into their attacks. But something was changing. The quantum fleet's crystalline structures were glowing brighter, taking in the enemy's power, but transforming it through quantum states. "Now," Sarah shouted, "quantum resonance at maximum." Rodriguez gave the order. "All ships, initiate feedback pulse." The energy the Devourers had been pouring into their attacks suddenly reversed course, amplified and transformed by the quantum fleet's crystalline matrices. Ships that had been designed to absorb energy found themselves overwhelmed by power they couldn't control. Several smaller Devourer craft simply ceased to exist, their matter converted to energy by the quantum feedback. Others began to break apart, their liquid metal forms losing cohesion. But the victory was far from complete. The largest Devourer ships survived, adapting to the quantum resonance attack. They began to emit a new form of energy, one that made normal space itself begin to warp and tear. "They're creating quantum singularities," Sarah reported, her voice tense. "Trying to trap us in localized time distortions." Rodriguez watched as space itself seemed to fracture around her fleet. The Devourers hadn't just survived for eons by being powerful. They'd survived by being adaptive. Now they were turning the quantum fleet's own dimensional manipulation against them. "All ships, fall back to secondary positions," she ordered. "Dr. Chen, Tell me you have another trick up your sleeve." Sarah stared at the data streaming across her screens, watching as the Devourers began to reshape the battlefield itself. "Maybe," she said slowly, "but you're not going to like it." Above Earth, humanity's first major battle for survival hung in the balance. They'd bloodied the Devourers' nose, proved they could hurt them. But now came the true test. Could they adapt faster than an enemy that had survived countless such encounters across millions of years? Rodriguez looked at the tactical display, where the quantum singularities were spreading like cracks in reality itself. "Well, Doctor," she said grimly, "I'm all ears." "The turn of the tide. The quantum singularities they're creating," Sarah explained, her voice rapid with realization. "They're using them as anchors in space-time. That's why our phase shifting isn't working anymore. They're literally holding reality in place around us." Rodriguez watched as another quantum ship narrowly avoided being caught in a time distortion. "How does that help us?" "Because they're not just holding space, they're holding time." Sarah's fingers flew across her console, sending new calculations to the fleet. "And if they're going to lock us in normal space-time, we can use that against them." The Devourer fleet continued its advance, their massive ships now surrounded by a web of micro-singularities that trapped sections of space in temporal stasis. But Sarah had seen something in their pattern, a weakness born from their very strength. "All ships, implement new quantum resonance frequencies," Rodriguez ordered. "Dr. Chen, whatever you're planning, make it fast." The quantum fleet began to pulse with new energy patterns. Instead of trying to exist in multiple states, they focused their power into singular intense points of quantum coherence. The crystalline structures along their hulls vibrated with concentrated force. "They think four-dimensionally," Sarah explained, planning their strategies across space and time simultaneously. "But humans, we can think abstractly. We can imagine impossible things and then make them real." The Devourers pressed their attack, confident in their control of the battlefield. Their energy-draining weapons lashed out, now enhanced by the temporal stability their singularities provided. But the quantum fleet wasn't trying to dodge anymore. "All ships, execute Protocol Omega on my mark," Rodriguez commanded. She looked at Sarah. "Are you sure about this?" Sarah nodded, though her hands were shaking slightly. "The Defenders chose us because we can do what they couldn't. Think beyond the rules." The Devourer fleet reached the optimal attack position, their singularity web now fully deployed. The trap was set, ready to capture and drain the human ships. "Now," Rodriguez ordered. Every ship in the quantum fleet activated their enhanced resonance drives simultaneously. But instead of generating defensive fields or weapon blasts, they created something new, a cascading wave of quantum probability collapse. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Devourers' carefully constructed web of singularities began to interact with each other in ways they hadn't anticipated. Each micro-black hole became a point of quantum uncertainty, their temporal anchors transforming into chaos points. "They tried to nail down reality," Sarah said, watching the effect spread. "But they forgot that at the quantum level, observation affects outcome, and we're making reality observe itself." The Devourer fleet's formation began to break apart as their own temporal manipulations turned against them. Ships that had existed in perfect synchronization suddenly found themselves out of phase with each other, their liquid metal forms struggling to maintain coherence. "All ships, switch to full offensive pattern," Rodriguez commanded. "Target their command nodes while they're destabilized." The quantum fleet struck with perfect coordination, their weapons now enhanced by the very temporal distortions the Devourers had created. Where before their attacks had been partially absorbed, now they hit with the full force of multiple timeline possibilities collapsed into single devastating points of impact. Massive Devourer ships began to break apart, their matter scattered across probability space. Others found themselves trapped in recursive temporal loops, fighting battles that had already ended. "They're retreating," Sarah announced, her voice filled with disbelief. "The remaining ships are pulling back." Rodriguez watched as the surviving Devourer vessels flowed into hyperspace, leaving behind the wreckage of their fleet, scattered across normal and probability space. Humanity had done what the defenders themselves could not, found a way to turn the fundamental nature of reality itself into a weapon. "Send word to Earth," she ordered. "The immediate threat is neutralized." But she looked at the tactical display, where evidence of the battle distorted space itself. "I don't think this is over." Sarah nodded, already analyzing new data from the engagement. "They'll be back, and they'll have learned from this. We need to be ready." The quantum fleet regrouped, their crystalline structures humming with residual energy. They had proven humanity's worth, shown why the defenders had chosen them. But in doing so, they had also announced their presence to the galaxy at large. "All ships, begin recovery operations," Rodriguez commanded. "And Dr. Chen, start working on our next impossible solution. Something tells me we're going to need it." The new era. 3 months after the Battle of Earth, the quantum structure reappeared. This time, it materialized directly in Earth orbit, its impossible geometries casting shifting shadows across the planet below. But unlike before, it didn't bring a warning. It brought visitors. Dr. Sarah Chen stood beside Admiral Zhang in the orbital reception facility, watching as the crystalline shuttle docked. The beings that emerged weren't the mechanical defenders they'd encountered before, but something else entirely. Tall, ethereal figures that seemed to exist partially out of phase with normal spacetime. "We are the architects." Their thoughts resonated directly in the minds of all present. "We have watched, and you have proven yourselves worthy." Fleet Commander Rodriguez, fresh from overseeing the integration of captured Devourer technology into the quantum fleet, stepped forward. "Worthy of what?" The answer came not in words but in visions. Vast networks of quantum structures spanning the galaxy, civilizations rising and falling across eons, and the eternal vigilance required to keep the Devourers at bay. "We built the network," the architects explained, "but we grew too rigid in our thinking, too set in our ways. We needed someone who could see beyond the established patterns. The defenders were our creation, programmed to find such a species." Sarah understood first. "You didn't just choose us to fight the Devourers. You chose us to take your place." The lead architect's form shimmered in what might have been approval. "For millions of years, we maintained the quantum network that keeps order in the galaxy. But order alone cannot defeat chaos. It requires innovation, creativity, the ability to think in ways that defy convention. It requires humanity." Admiral Zhang stepped forward. "The Devourers will return." "Yes," the architects confirmed. "They are not defeated, merely surprised. They will adapt to your quantum probability tactics, but you will also adapt, innovate, create new possibilities we never imagined. This is why you were chosen." The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just being offered membership in a galactic civilization. They were being offered its stewardship, the quantum network, the technology to maintain it, the responsibility to protect countless species across the galaxy. All of it would be theirs. "There are others," the architects continued. "Young races like yourselves, full of potential. Some you will protect, others you will guide. Many you will learn from. But you will be the guardians, the innovators, the ones who ensure the network evolves rather than stagnates." Rodriguez looked at the tactical displays showing Earth's growing quantum fleet. "We're ready." The transfer of knowledge began immediately. The architects shared their understanding of the quantum network, their technologies, their histories. But more importantly, they shared their mistakes. The paths not taken, the opportunities missed because of their own limitations. Sarah found herself working directly with the architects, discovering that humanity's primitive understanding of quantum mechanics sometimes led to insights their rigid thinking had missed. The defenders had been right. Humanity's greatest strength was not knowing that something was impossible. Within a year, the first human-designed quantum structures were being deployed across the galaxy. They incorporated elements of art and music into their quantum resonance patterns, creating harmonies in spacetime, that the architects had never conceived of. The Devourers did return, as predicted, but they found not just Earth waiting for them, but a transformed quantum network pulsing with human creativity and innovation. Where the architects had maintained static defenses, humanity created dynamic ones that evolved and adapted in real time. "We were right to choose you," the last architect said before their departure. "You have already begun to transform the network in ways we never imagined. The galaxy's future is in good hands." Admiral Zhang stood in the same council chamber where they had first learned of the Devourer threat, now transformed into the headquarters of Earth's Quantum Network Command. Representatives from a dozen alien species, some protected, some allied, all part of humanity's growing community, attended virtually through quantum projections. "We were chosen," he addressed the assembly, "not because we were the strongest or the most advanced, but because we never stopped dreaming. The architects built wonders, but we will make them sing." Sarah, now director of quantum innovation, smiled as she looked at the latest reports. Already, human artists and musicians were collaborating with scientists to create new forms of quantum architecture. Human children played with quantum toys that would have baffled the architects, their uninhibited minds finding new ways to manipulate reality itself. The quantum structure that had first brought the warning still orbited Earth, now a monument to the moment humanity took its place among the stars. But it was no longer just a beacon. Human engineers had transformed it into something new, a quantum symphony that broadcast hope across the galaxy. The Devourers still lurked in the darkness between stars, but they no longer inspired fear. Humanity had faced the impossible and found not just a way to survive, but a way to thrive. The age of the architects was over. The age of humanity had begun. And somewhere in the vast quantum network, in harmonies of space-time that echoed across dimensions, the galaxy itself seemed to sing with new possibilities.